Hello, everyone. I am Christopher Felix. Let's go into the Word. In today's Gospel reading, we read of a Canaanite woman who approaches Jesus with a simple request, which is to heal her daughter. And for today's Gospel reading reflection, I would like to draw three themes that are intertwined in this particular passage. One being faith, second being persistence, the third being humility. Let's begin with faith and persistence in prayer. My dear brothers and sisters, we see the faith and persistence of this Canaanite woman. You see, at the very beginning of a conversation with Jesus, she addresses Jesus with the title Son of David, which could just possibly be a merely political title used to address Jesus. But as the conversation progresses, as her contact with Jesus increases, right at the very end, she kneels before Jesus, acknowledging his divinity. She was seeking for a miracle not just for herself, but for the sake of her beloved daughter. And as you can see, at her own expense, she was shouting and screaming at the top of her lungs, trying to get the attention of Jesus. And what we can really see is this great faith that the woman had. She knew that Jesus could indeed heal her daughter, and she refused to take no for an answer. What you and I can see is that her faith is put into action through her persistence. And even though she was a Canaanite and not of the house of Israel, she had far greater faith than some who had heard the good news for themselves. And so I'd like to encourage you, my dear brothers and sisters, that as we come before our God in prayer, let us really come with faith, with expectant faith. And let us not give up with our prayer requests, with our prayer intentions. We know that prayer does not change God, because God is the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. But rather, prayer changes us, and it disposes us to receive this immeasurable grace from God. We know of so many stories, especially of Saint Monica, who was praying for her son, who is Saint Augustine. And for many years, she had the faith that Saint Augustine would have this conversion, and she persisted in prayer. Let us not give up, my dear brothers and sisters, that as we pray for all of our prayer intentions, let us come before the Lord with expectant faith, and let us not give up. So we have talked about the first two themes, which is faith and persistence in prayer. I'd like to move on to speak about humility in prayer. You see, my dear brothers and sisters, before this encounter of the Canaanite woman with Jesus, Jesus had an encounter with the Pharisees and the scribes. And as we all know, that conversation between Jesus and the Pharisees and the scribes, there's always some sort of dispute happening. The Pharisees and scribes were wanting to attack Jesus. They did not have humility in their heart to listen to Jesus. And so I'd like to quote the Catechism of the Catholic Church 2559, which speaks about prayer. And it says, and I quote, "Prayer is the raising of one's mind and heart to God, or the requesting of good things from God. But when we pray, do we speak from the height of our pride and will, or out of the depths of a humble and contrite heart? He who humbles himself will be exalted. Humility is the foundation of prayer. Only when we humbly acknowledge that we do not know how to pray as we ought, are we ready to receive freely the gift of prayer. Man is a beggar before God." End quote. And you can see this Canaanite woman coming before the Lord in humility, not from the height of her pride, but really from the depths of humility and with a contrite heart, begging before the Lord, requesting that her daughter may be healed. With faith and persistence and humility, all of this are central, in coming before the Lord. She knew that God could heal her daughter. She knew it, but she had to humble herself. And she humbled herself, Jesus towards, at the end, acknowledge her faith, acknowledge her persistence, acknowledge that this woman was humble. And she said, your faith has healed your daughter. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, I'd like to encourage each and every one of us that as we come before the Lord, let us not come as the Pharisees and the scribes, but let's come as this Canaanite woman with a humble and contrite heart, knowing that Jesus can answer all of our prayers. And so, just to sum up our reflection today, my dear brothers and sisters, we spoke about faith, we spoke about persistence and humility in prayer. I'd just like to end this short gospel reflection with a testimony of mine with these particular themes of faith, persistence, and humility. I'd like to share with you in 2016, I was looking for more permanent and stable job. And when I was putting in my resumes in different platforms, I was praying and requesting to the Lord to answer this great desire of mine. And the desire was to have a job that I was able to serve the Lord as well as to provide the needs of my family. And it took a while, it just didn't happen overnight. To be exact, it took almost a year and a half for me to actually get called for an interview. And during that 1.5 years, I developed, these 3 key areas of prayer, which is faith, persistence, and humility. I had to pray with expectant faith that as I align my will to the will of God, that the Lord will open the doors. I had to be persistent because there were times that I was down. Was there really a job for me out there in the market? I was a little bit older, and could I actually have a stable job? And I had to be humble before the Lord, listening to Him. At times, maybe at the beginning of my interview, I was only focused on one particular area of a job, but I was humble enough to say, no, I need to maybe increase in different areas and allow the Lord to open doors for me and not to close any doors, And I praise and thank God that in 2018, in September, I was called for an interview. Within 2 or 3 days, I got the job. And I attribute it to these 3 major themes, which is faith, persistence, and humility. As you and I align our wills, our desires to the will of the Father, I know that God, being a great Father who desires to answer all of our needs according to His will, it is He who will open the doors for us. So I'd like to encourage you to have faith, my dear brothers and sisters, to be persistent, and more importantly, to come before the Lord in humility. Take care and God bless.